There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. A dimension of sound.
For the 150th time, you are not getting out of here. Please let me finish the Count of Monte Cristo.
A dimension of sight.
No change at all.
What? I think I look fine.
A dimension of mind. Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am your host, Nick. I am here once again to talk about the Twilight Zone series created by Rod Serling, the most amazing series ever created by man. No, there is no series better. Maybe there is, but right now there is not. As always, if you find us on YouTube, great. You can find us on YouTube on my channel where we post all the reviews. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play and probably Pornhub for all I know, that type of thing. You know, we are sexy in all forms of but anyways, leave
in the description, bitches.
Yeah. Check out Jacob's OnlyFans.
Why do you think I do this every week? But those voices you can hear, voices you hear are of course my two
in your head.
Yes, exactly.
They're my two doppelgangers, my two when you when they're not in use they turn on the juice, that type of thing. They're of course
purple testicles.
Two purple testicles of my heart, which are of course Triv from Trivial Theater and Jacob from his own channel, Jacob Anders Reviews. What's up, guys? We're here. We're talking about some kind of episode of Twilight Zone. Maybe we are in the Twilight Zone. I don't know. How are you guys doing? How is everything? What's life like in your neck of the woods?
My luggage keeps disappearing and reappearing at weird times, and I don't know why.
I don't know. Ren might have something to say about that.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
No, sir. I don't like that. No, sir. I'm just kidding.
No, sir. I didn't like it.
Nope.
Anyway. What up, mofos? Welcome to this Fifth Dimension up in this bitch. I don't know. I just had to do something like that. I don't know.
Wait, let me put up my gang sign.
Hey, Nick. I think he might have a leak in his attic.
He might.
I got a leak in my attic. I felt the need to do that. I have no idea why. You can cut that out. After last week, I noticed, by the way, last week. But for those of you that are listening and or watching, by the way, I was told, understandably so, that we had a guest last week, and when we did, I was told I had to have a pep talk. I was told I needed to be good, and I think I was. Which last week's episode, I probably talked less than any other episode that I've been on. So
I'm sorry.
I got to make up for it this week.
So do we need to have an elegy for your life or of not talking?
I was a good boy last week, so this week I get to unwind. As long as my internet can handle it.
And yeah, Alex Carson was on last week. She was fantastic as a guest, host on the show, and she'll come back at some point. I hope we didn't scare her off. Maybe we did. I don't know, with
Very
our
nice.
Twilight spinnings.
Great channel. Check out her channel too, by the way. She's got some really in-depth reviews. It's
been an interesting week. I know, Triv, you have been having some fun with being under the weather. I know Jacob is having fun trying to figure out why he has no good internets, and I'm just here staring into the vortex of hell in my life.
Know exactly why I don't have good internet, but I'm having fun trying to figure out how to get good internet. Come on, Elon, you need to make that Star Wars shit happen quicker.
I just want that Google Fiber. Just give me that Google Fiber that's in Tampa right now. I'll take that shit,
dude. I would just take stable. At this point, I saw somebody doing a video about I got 10 megabytes per second up and down with my internet, and I was like, wow, that sounds great. You're living in heaven.
The good thing is you're stable right now, so that's always good. Hopefully you don't know freezing. You're like that type of thing. So.
Shut up, Nick. Stop talking. Last night, that's what I did on my stream. Everything was going decent, and I was like, "Hey, you know what? Tonight, actually, it's actually being pretty And that is when the stream ended.
It might have been just you and I, Triv, again for the first time in I don't know. You've been on for like 2 months now, so yeah.
Woohoo!
You made the podcast that much worse, Jacob. No, I'm kidding. No joke. No joke. when we and Triv were doing it, it was awesome. Triv was on. We were, bantering back and forth. But I think our podcast got better and spicier when Jacob came on.
Oh no,
'Cause I was
shit,
watching
Sherlock.
Yeah,
Definitely
like,
got spicier.
the
I don't know
level-
about better.
I mean, we got the memes and the Jeff and but it was good to listen to the older episodes, but I just realized that when that missing click, that missing piece is when Jacob came on. So take it for what it's worth, people. Take it for what it's worth. I don't know what I'm talking about a lot of times. But
See, I could leave and you guys would be all the better because I really don't bring that much.
If you
to
leave,
the
then I'm
occasion.
gonna. If you leave, then I need to find another cup and another set of headphones.
What's in
Well,
that
that's
cup,
not
Nick?
that difficult. That's not that hard. Well, so what are we talking about tonight?
Yeah. So with that said,
Why are we here? I don't even know what I'm doing here. They call me and just say, speak to what it is we're talking about. I'm like, okay,
yes.
say
Well,
something
so-
dirty. Gotcha.
So I was pretty happy about LG making it in the top 10. I think that's it's a fun episode. I think this week's episode could, if it were me, could make, a good case for until next week when a certain episode that I will fight for number one. But this week, I think is what I would consider a pretty competent, pretty well executed episode. Whether we all agree or not is a different story. But this episode is, of course, episode 21 of season 1. It's called Mirror Image with Vera Miles. It's directed by John Brahm, written by Rod Serling, episode production code 173-3623, which is episode 23 recorded, aired on February 26, 1960. And like I said, it stars Vera Miles, who's a very famous actress who plays Maleficent or Millicent, or however you say her name, Millicent Barnes.
Millicent.
It wasn't Maleficent.
We'll just call her Maleficent.
She's
like, where's he
Angelina
going
Jolie.
with this?
Gasp.
Mount Milner is Paul Grindstead, which I don't think he actually has ever said. His name's not actually ever said in the episode, if I remember right. I could be wrong. Joe Hamilton as the dickish ticket agent, and
I do
Naomi
like
Stevens.
a good dickish agent.
I know, dickish agent,
Heard it
Agent
first.
Dick, and Naomi Stevens as the scared washroom attendant.
Dude, I want that on my resume just to be like, yeah, I played prostitute number 7 and the scared wait room attendant person thing.
I know. I played Abraham Lincoln and Abraham Lincoln Vampire
God.
Hunter.
Yeah, you
Or
she's
whatever it
got the
was.
beard
Zombie
for
hunter.
it.
Was she scared or just more irritated? Like every time she came in, she was just immediately like,
I don't know. I think Vera Miles was just pissing off everyone in this episode.
Yeah.
It was,
that
just,
poor
it was
lady, I
like,
felt
holy
for
shit.
her.
But this is an episode that, to start out, it was an episode that Rod Serling wrote, not only because he was in an airport and he saw someone wearing like exactly the same stuff he was wearing, but if I remember right, and I was reading this, I think last week when Alex was on, but it's an episode that Rod Serling wrote because he was getting complaints about he didn't know, or he was either made a bet or whatever happened where he was told that he couldn't write women in episodes and stuff like that. And he was like, fuck you, I'm going to write a great episode with a woman in it. And that's when he got Vera Miles to appear in Mirror Image, and he wrote this episode. And apparently he can write an episode with a woman in it pretty well. I mean, if you think about it, but I just think that's funny that like they're back in 1959 or 1960, and you're like, you can't write women. Do you know how to write a woman? And I'm like, no,
Well,
apparently
writing a woman back in the 60s versus writing a woman now, night and day in a lot of places, if you're talking the traditional sense of doing so.
I would have just
Yeah.
loved to have seen that conversation if it went down that way back then. They come up to Rod and they're all like, look here, hot Rod, you can't write women. See? And he just used the same verbiage you said. And he's like, what? Fuck you. I can write women. I write great fucking women in the Twilight Zone.
I write great fucking women, and great fucking women like to ride me.
Yeah. Hey, a minute ago, I didn't want to say it, but you were saying writing women and writing women then and now. It really sounded like you were saying writing women back in the 50s is very similar to writing women nowadays. And I was like, I'm with you. I'm buying what you're selling.
I can say on the subject of ladies, they had the big ladies sign on the door of the bathroom, and the LNA were behind Maleficent. Now you got me saying
Millicent.
Millicent.
Yeah.
Millie.
So it actually reads dies, not ladies,
Nice.
at the beginning of the thing. So
We'll just call her Millie. Milli Vanilli.
So back to the episode. I know I asked you this earlier, Triv, because I know because you're busy, Jacob, with the kids and stuff like that. We watched the episode, a couple hours ago. I had asked you, did you know anything about the episode at all? Have you seen it before? All that good stuff. I know you guys have seen it, but do you remember this episode at all? I do, but do you guys at all?
I think I remember seeing it, but it's not one that I would remember off the top of my head. So
I did. I remembered this episode better than any other episode to this point that we've watched so far. Because like the name I didn't, but like literally as soon as it came on in that bus station, it was almost like I remembered it, and I remembered, oh, that was a Twilight Zone episode. It's just, I don't know why I remember the episode. I remember basically where it was going, but I couldn't remember every single little thing. But I remember the basic, woman who's seeing herself, and I think in the end somebody else. I remember it very, very fairly vividly, considering it was 20 something years ago now when I watched it. So I remembered it pretty damn well. Like really, this one, there's been other ones that we've watched in the 21, however many I've done, that like I'll watch and I'll be like, yeah, I remember some of this. Basically, no, this one, it was like immediately first shot, and I was like, oh yeah, and I remembered pretty much everything about it. Which, I mean, I guess that means it stood out. Probably because he wrote a great woman.
he wrote a great
He wrote that woman all the way to my memory.
See, I'll never live down the tease. I'll never live down the tease. That's why I keep saying Sterling instead of Sterling, because I don't know how to say tease. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it's an episode that you usually find at least in the top 20 when it comes to rankings. It's usually one of those episodes that people always talk about. So it makes sense if you remember it. It's always up there with like the book one Monsters. Where they eat people. Yeah,
Serve Mankind.
Serve Mankind and Serve Man and the Obsolete Man, stuff like that. And it's just one of those episodes because it's a very, what I would call very high sci-fi in a lot of aspects. But it's
especially
also
for the time.
Apparently,
it's very simple.
I don't want to get ahead of us myself. You can cut this out if you have to, but it apparently inspired us, which at the time that I saw it, I didn't realize that because
makes sense though.
But like this time watching, I was like, I totally see that. Yep. I absolutely see that. And it makes sense even further because Jordan Peele went on to make the new Twilight Zone. It's like he legit is a Twilight Zone fan.
Yeah, I mean, I think even his new movies putting out, Nope is, I think, inspired. I think even Get Out was inspired by Twilight Zone in a way.
I was just about to say, I wonder if his new movie. I couldn't remember the name of it. I was gonna say it's like No. No, I remember it was No or No.
Oh hell no.
No. You should have named it.
It's like one word. It's like Get Out. Wait, us? Nope. I don't know.
That's what he needs to do. He needs to do like an Elon Musk Tesla thing, where over years and years he creates this whole thing where we don't realize it while it's happening, but years later, if we like say all of his products in a line, they say something. Like, Tesla, they had the Model S, the Model 3, which was supposed to be the E, but they got sued by Ford, and the Model X. So he wanted it to, and the Model Y, he wanted his line to be sexy.
Oh, there you go.
SEXY.
Yeah.
And he did it.
I just figured it was going to be like a Christmas Story. It's like, please make sure to drink your Ovaltine.
Yeah.
A crummy commercial.
Son of a bitch.
But in essence, what ends up happening, it's a very simple episode. It starts out, Millicent Barnes, played by Vera Miles, is in a bus depot.
Just call her Vera Miles.
Millie.
I was thinking about doing that, actually.
Call her Millie.
She's trying to go from New York to Cortland, and of course she walks up to the baggage attendant, the ticket taker, whoever the hell he is, very grouchy individual. He's like,
hey, dude's just trying to read his magazine. Let the dude read his magazine.
But he's like, you've already been up here, and she's like, what are you talking about? I've already been up here. Like, you've already been up here. Please go away. I'm trying to read my porn. And yeah, and basically she sees her bag sitting there on the baggage area, and she looks over and her bag's there as well. She's really confused, like, why do I have the same broken bag? Like, what is going on here? And he's like, dude's like very persistent. It's like, you were here just a few minutes ago. She's like, I've never been here before. I'm like, you've been here many times. We've stopped bothering for every 10 minutes. And that's when it leads into the opening narration of course, Rod Serling.
Oh, that's my cue. Millie Vanilli Barnes, age 25, young woman, waiting for a bus on a rainy November night. Not a very imaginative type is Miss Barnes, not given to undue anxiety or fears, or for that matter, even the most temporal flights of fantasy. Like most young career women, she has a generic classification as a quote, girl with a head on her shoulders, end of quote. All of which is mentioned now because in just a moment, the head on Miss Barnes' shoulders, pudding shoulders, that is, will be put to a test. Circumstances will assault her senses of reality, and a chain of nightmares will put her sanity on a block. Millie Vanilli Barnes, who in 1 minute will wonder if she's going mad. Like the longest opening narration we've had since I've been on the show, and especially in contrast to the closing narration that's like one line.
Yep.
I was looking at that when we were getting ready for the show, and I pasted it in here, and I was like, "Oh my god, where does this stop?"
But it almost seems like Rod Serling's testing himself to prove that he can write a woman in a TV episode that has somewhat of an impact. And he's like, you know what I need to do? I need to write a 6-page essay and tell you exactly what I feel. There's going to be a chain of nightmares. There's going to be anxiety. There's going to be fears. There's going to be temporal flights of fantasy. And there's going to be everything.
There's going to be a generic career girl that has a head on her shoulders.
Pudding shoulders.
Exactly.
And there's going to be, as I was reading the last sentence of this, it says circumstances will assault her senses of reality and a chain of nightmares, blah, blah, blah. I almost said, because the way my brain read it for some reason, instead of circumstances, circumcisions. So it almost came off as circumcisions will assault her senses of reality. A chain of nightmares.
That's a lot of susses.
I get it. I mean, that could be, that could really assault somebody. But anyway, moving on. Just thought I'd say that.
If your circumcision is assaulting somebody, then you need to back the hell up.
This is our first X-rated episode.
Oh my god!
Got to make it for last week.
We told
doctor
you.
Comes up to me and starts talking about cutting off parts of my kid. I'm like, no, stop snipping. There's no reason for you to be snipping stuff away.
So anyway, so basically the first act of this episode is Vera Miles is just she's losing her sanity, because everybody she talks to basically is like, you've been here before. What are you doing here? She walks in the bathroom. She's like, you've been here before. Her briefcase keeps like teleporting in different places. First it's on the baggage cart. It's disappeared from the bench, and all of a sudden it's at the bench again. And it's just like, is this woman insane? It's like when you watch those TV shows or movies, and the people, you're like the kid and the family member doesn't believe that there's a monster there, but something is like weird and off about it. That's what it makes her feel like she's crazy, which goes into the later part of this episode. But she, like I said, she goes in the bathroom, and the baggage attendant, like at some point, scolds her, tells her to sit down and breathe out of her nose or some shit like that.
No, the ticket attendant, it says because he's like freaking out, and he's like, go sit down and breathe through your nose.
Yeah. Like that's gonna help.
I'm gonna try that next time somebody's freaking out. Hey, you sit down, breathe through your nose. What the fuck is that gonna do? Breathe through my nose? I mean, the ticket guy on Twilight Zone said it.
Well, he's long dead, so I mean, clearly his wisdom is right.
He didn't listen to his own advice one day. He wasn't breathing through his nose.
No, breathing through your nose is hard when you've got a cold.
Breathing through your nose is hard when you're like me and you have like anybody who has allergies and who has a deviated septum like I have. It's hard to breathe out your nose at some point.
Oh, I'm sure.
But she walks into the bathroom, right? And there's a woman. I'm guessing this is the washroom attendant, and she's like, "Oh, I think Vera Miles' character said, oh, you're gonna say I've been in here before," and she of course says that, and that's when she first gets her first look at the doppelganger. As we've come to learn, it's a doppelganger in essence of herself in the mirror sitting on the bench with the suitcase. I think I asked you this before, Triv, but I'll ask you guys again. At this point in the episode, even if you didn't know what was going on, did you have any inkling that this was a mirror image doppelganger situation? Because they talk about later on what exactly is going on, and it's really funny that Vera Miles' character knows all this information later on. Like she almost forgot it, and all of a sudden she remembers it. But did you guys have any inkling of what was it leaning towards? Did you know where this was kind of going? If you had never seen Us as well, I guess you could say.
I mean, I kind of felt like there's only so many ways this is going to go. It's either going to be it's in her head or it's going to be full on doppelganger. And it's like being it's a Twilight Zone. I don't know. It seemed from the beginning, you kind of knew it was going to just be. I mean, the movie is called, or the episode is called Mirror Image. So yeah, I kind of felt like it was going to be like, okay, there's something not right here. It's not just in her head.
Yeah. If the title of the show didn't give it away, or the episode Mirror Image. But yeah, like when Twilight Zone, like you always mentioned, they really plays with mirrors a lot. And this is, I even made note of it. There's the mirror shot right there. Like I said earlier, I already remembered basically what was kind of basically going on, so I knew to a degree. So yeah, I can't really say. I get maybe when the first time I saw it, I probably didn't know exactly what was going on. I maybe thought like she was seeing some other dimension, or I don't know, or maybe she's crazy. Maybe they're ghosts. I don't know. I have no idea where my mind was going back then.
Well, that's the kind of genius of this episode. If you, this is my opinion, the simple fact that it slowly unfolds the exact story and the exact concept of what Rod Serling is going for. It's not just like in your face, straightforward. It's not, the Purple Testament or something like that. It slowly unfolds into like the later part of the second act, where it gives you the kind of in your face, boom, dynamite moment. And I thought that was really good. Like I said, it's one of those episodes where it doesn't need you to know everything at first, but you get just enough pieces that you start putting some stuff together. Like, what is this happening to her? Why is she seeing her reflection of another person? And we're going to see later on with the boss where there's something else happens, and it leads into the final kind of, oh, okay, I get where this is going. But I personally liked it. I personally felt it was kind of an interesting way to open up and kind of flex your muscles, your brain muscles, to kind of let the episode kind of flourish, I guess you could say. So
you're gonna need to stick with that whole, not having to have everything explained and sentiment though when we get to the end, because
oh yeah, well,
you're not gonna get a lot of answers here.
No,
yeah,
that's okay. That's
yeah.
part of the joy of the Twilight Zone is stuff just happens.
That's why we're probably going to talk a lot about this episode close to the end of this episode.
Yes.
Well, that's why like I'm trying to get through like this stuff, because it really is very thin in what it's trying to do, but it's giving you just enough information. But for instance, when Vera's character comes out of the bathroom, she approaches the old couple and she's like, did you see somebody sitting at the bench? And they're like, no, we didn't see anybody sitting there at any time, pointed, or so on and so forth. He's really questioning things. And this is when Paul, who's never actually mentioned as Paul in the episode, appears, and he's soaking wet, even though his rest of his body's like jacket and hat are wet, but the rest of his body's dry for some reason.
He's wearing a coat.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, his hat is super wet, but his like overcoat really isn't that wet. It's like,
sombrero.
dude.
Yeah,
exactly.
Covers
everything.
Yeah,
maybe. Probably not. I don't know.
I don't know. I just didn't think that over jacket would keep him dry, but maybe it does. It was a different time in the 60s. So, but they get talking, and she's trying to figure out what's going on, trying to explain stuff. That's when the bus pops up, and they go out. And Vera's character basically freaks out, and we don't see why at first until the act ends, but she kind of passes out and they bring her inside, and that's when we see the other Vera Miles, the doppelganger as it's put, on the bus, smiling like an evil smile and stuff like that. As in essence, they bring her back in, the Vera Miles character we've seen, and the bus drives off because they're like, we have to figure out something. And that's pretty much the end of the act. Like I said, it's not really much to it outside of just kind of setting up the whole third or second act, kind of bang you in the head type of moment. But what did you guys think of the first act? Was there anything I've missed that you wanted to add, or what did you guys think overall? Because I loved it, but that's just my opinion.
I think that there was a kind of a neat thing, like when she first goes up to the mirror in the bathroom, like you don't see her reflection in the mirror. You see like the edge of the mirror, but not her. And then you don't see her whole, like, because you're kind of like, oh, okay, is she going to see, herself in the mirror? Is someone going to tackle her and it's going to be her? So then she goes to leave the bathroom, and then you see, her sitting there, and that causes her to freak out, and then all hell breaks loose. So I thought it was a nice thing. It kind of subverted expectations for when you saw the doppelganger.
I was still enjoying it. However, there was one thing that I took pause on. At least for a few seconds, made me say, oh no. I can't remember if it was right at this part or right after the commercial break. I think it's the Paul character. He says to her, someone about she's got the fever, and I was like, oh shit.
You're just
Like,
waiting
oh,
for the waiting for
it's
the
gone
machine.
downhill now.
Yeah.
Like, no, never mention the fever, especially not
I
as
just-
close to the fever.
I assumed that like she meant like a fever as in like, she was going out of her head a bit. Well,
Just
no,
admit
she mentions that she doesn't have a fever, and she keeps coming back to that fact. Like she's like, I'm healthy. I don't have a fever. I'm not sick. So
That's what somebody else said too. And then they jumped out of a 2-foot window and plastered themselves on a indistinct
true.
parking lot.
But there weren't any gambling machines around,
There weren't any in his hotel room either until the Amazon gambling machine came after him.
Hey, and there was a cigarette machine in there. Let's just get that out of the way. The
Yeah.
cigarette machine is deadly in its own right. So there you go.
Remember
the
those?
fever of nicotine.
Remember those machines?
You just press a
Sad thing
button
is,
and
I'm
it's
old enough to say I remember those machines. I
remember
pull the thing.
Dude, they still have those over in Ireland, or at least they did the last time I was there.
So yeah, I don't know if we got those here anymore. Smoking's not a very big thing. I mean, people are kind of. I mean, I don't smoke anymore, but I remember those things. Go in there and you pull the long thing like you're about to release it for a pinball machine, and cigarettes come out. Dopamine in the back. Anyway, side note.
No, yeah. I love the stuff they put in there is like set pieces and stuff like that and background stuff, because it's like, oh yeah, I kind of remember when that, even though I was born in like the 80s, I kind of remember when that was happening, when the cordless phone or the cord phones with the
rotary
thing
phone. Yeah, I remember that shit.
And then you fuck up and you're like, you keep doing.
Dude, we were poor. We had those till the 90s.
So we come back to the second act of this episode, and Vera is like passed out, and this is when we get the bus attendant, which comes out with the best line ever: "When not in use, turn on the juice or turn off the juice." Like, I guess turn off the power. But I'm like, this is definitely a lexicon saying that we had to put in it.
Oh, what's in there?
Totally.
Yeah.
What
was the other one?
Turn off the juice.
Yep.
Something about a leaky brain.
The other one.
Leaky attic
The other one was she's got a leak in her attic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't think that's as good as turn off the juice, but
it's shorter. If you need a quicker insult, you say you got a leak in your attic.
Exactly.
I like both of them, but I like the phonics of when not used, turn off the juice. And I feel like, that saying right there can have so many different applications.
You think?
And can apply to so many different situations and have a totally different meaning for every one of them. So I dig it. She got a leak in her attic. That sounds almost like an insult. You could insult.
It is an insult.
And I mean, yeah,
it's like cheese slid off the cracker or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I'm probably gonna. I got both of them there, but I'm probably when it's all said and done, I try and have one from each episode. Probably gonna stick with the juice. Anytime you include the word juice in something, or juicy, even better. It's kind of like moist. Or skeet. I mean, you just got to keep these. You get that, if you can include those words. There's certain words, if you can include them, then you just got to keep it voluptuous, decadent.
There's a really great Monty Python Flying Circus sketch that deals with words that are good and words that are bad. Like words that are woody are very good. So anyways, one other kind of fun thing, and it obviously was probably not meant at that time, but like at the ticket desk, it says check your luggage or check baggage. your baggage. And I just was like, well, she's got a ton of baggage.
Maybe that's a double entendre or a double play on words. It could be a double play on words, actually.
I'm not sure if they would have. I don't know if they would have had that term though back then. Like that seems like it's a more recent thing. But as a modern viewer, definitely hit.
Yeah,
so.
It's like the die thing. I feel like that's it's like intentionally trying to foreshadow or something like that.
Yeah.
Which Twilight Zone was good with doing that kind of stuff. They had lots of little things in the background. But sometimes I got to wonder if us knowing that about Twilight Zone and going back and analyzing these things like this, if Serling was around to watch these, would he be watching some of them? And like we deep dive so much into it. And we're trying to pick apart all these things and be like, oh, but you see like that crack right there represents just the divide between these two. I wonder if sometimes he's just like, no, her head.
In the words of Mystery Science Theater. In the words of Mystery Science Theater 3000, we should really just relax.
Yeah, just chill out.
Repeat to yourself, it's just a show.
Well, you just need to get to the chopper. Get to the
Yeah.
chopper.
It's just
That's
a
it.
show. It's just a movie. It's just entertainment. Let's not argue like about Rocky being
Dude,
That
I
has
know
nothing to anything.
and I'm like, I want to do a Twilight Zone podcast. And if we disagree, we disagree. I don't want us to get into shouting matches about a series that came out, 60 years ago, 62 years ago at this point,
Yeah.
or 63 years ago. I just want us to have fun. If we do
we
put
do
in
need
shoulders,
to have we do need to have that one episode. I'm sure it's going to come out of 156 episodes or however 60. I don't know. I say it wrong every time. Out of 150 episodes, there are. I feel as if we're going to reach that one where there is a big divide where one of us just loves it and another one of us just fucking hates it.
I'm trying to find
that one. I'm looking forward to it.
I
Nice.
hope so. It's
I
probably
tell you,
gonna be
guys,
like,
our asses are going to get kicked by me because, obviously, ass kicker.
well, yeah,
If you're wearing your
she's
space
gonna be the
pants,
one
better
that's
watch out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Me and my space pants.
the one with the two microphones. We gotta watch out for that, you know.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
One of them disappears.
Um,
We'll be like, "Where's that other microphone, Trev? What are you doing with it?"
And you see your figure just come. You just figure your figure come on screen to each person and just like wax the person in the back of the head. And
That'd be
like,
fun.
how'd you do that?
Power of the internet.
So this is the wow. They're doing a low. I don't know what the word called exposition dump of what this episode is even about.
Oh, you mean when
just
she
do a
starts
dump?
going into all her
Yes. So
conspiracy theories?
Yeah.
yeah,
Mandela effect.
yeah. So this is I know what Jacob was talking about, but let me explain what happens first before we get into the real thing here.
Meat and potatoes.
Yes, meat and potatoes. So Melissa Vera Millie Vanilli Miles or whatever. She's talking to Paul.
Vera Millie Vanilli
Miles. So Vera's talking to Paul. She wakes up. She's like, "Oh my god, I missed my bus." And like, no, we'll just wait till somebody comes or I'll drive you or whatever. And I expect this on like Lost. I expect this on like, I don't know, Bill Nye the Science Guy or Neil deGrasse Tyson. I didn't expect this in the Twilight Zone, to be fairly honest. I know Rod Serling is a very smart individual, and maybe he had somebody he knew that was very into, planes of existence and the metaverse or multiverse or whatever. But she is literally changed to, she's now a professor of the multiverse and parallel universes. And she basically goes into a whole diatribe of there's this parallel universe that is trying to intercept and come into our own world, and the only way they can survive is they have to take over a spot, and that's the way they live. And she goes into so much stuff about just what it was actually quite impressive that they were even thinking about this at the time. Whether they were thinking about it on a logical level, I don't know, but basically what it boiled down to is there are doppelgangers. They are trying to invade our world. This is like, evil Superman trying to invade the real, like the good Superman. And I was like, holy shit. This is not what I was, because I don't remember this at all, but I'm like, holy shit, maybe this is the best episode I've ever seen, or maybe this is the worst episode. I don't know. I mean, I know Jacob, you had some thoughts about this, and I'm sure you do, Triv, as well. But what do you guys think about this part? Because it's really there's a lot of heavy lifting going on, and this is like a very slanted, on the weight scale part of the episode, I guess. So
I mean,
have at it.
I think that, and I agree with you, but the concept they bring into this, you could see them, at least from what I can see, one of two ways. One, and I don't remember when Invasion of the Body Snatchers came out. I think it was in the 50s, but like that whole idea of like being taken over by a different persona and you going away is kind of based in that general arena, at least in some way, shape, or form.
1956.
1956. Okay, so it was a couple years before. But two, you think like communism, like that whole like, evil people coming in to take over your position, in a way could be sort of in that realm, because that was a big thing at that point.
Yeah.
You didn't know if you could trust your people or not.
It was just the way that it was said. I like, that's why I love the Jeff Goldblum, Donald Sutherland's Invasion of Body Snatchers, because it's more body horror than it is a science horror. But this goes into some really like very scientific for its time. I mean, today
Right.
this stuff is normal speak. I mean, we all, but if you think about it, it's going into deeper levels than I ever expected the Twilight Zone to go in. That when it's not talking about like racism and war and stuff like that. So I'm sorry, I'm sure.
No.
Jacob has a lot to say too. So
go forth, conquer.
Tell me I'm
first of
wrong.
all, I'm happy that you mentioned the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because when you said 56, no, I mean, I know that the original came out then, but let's be real, the only Invasion of the Body Snatchers there is the 1978 one.
Oh no, agreed. It's definitely
Jeff
a better
Goldblum.
movie.
I love that movie.
It's awesome.
The first one's good. Oh, I think we hit a nerve.
I love it.
Or maybe maybe Nick is talking about the 2008 Invasion movie with Daniel
Oh
Craig
God, no.
and Nicole Kidman. That's
no.
It's okay. Opinions are like assholes.
We all hate them.
Anyway,
they're fuckable.
But no,
they're full. Yes. They're very anal. They're very anable.
Anable. Okay.
Anyways,
but that all aside, totally forgot where I was going with that. But that all aside, I thought it was really cool because the things they were talking about, you're right. These were not conversations that happened in the late 50s and early 60s when this came out. Actually, 1960.
Yep.
This whole dialogue about, I'm not saying nobody had ever talked about parallel universes and dimensions and all that stuff. Sure, there was somebody, but it didn't really become more well known, and these theories didn't really start to develop until the later 60s, early 70s, and really take off and bloom a bit closer to the later 70s and 80s. That it became what it is nowadays, where people talk about astral planes and all that shit. It's all drugs they did in the 60s and 70s. I think probably
that helped.
But that's when all that stuff came about, and like, there's other dimensions and universes and all that stuff that people were going on and on about. People actually thinking that shit. But hey, if you do, more power to you. So I did think it was interesting that a lot of the things she was saying it was before their time, but they were eerily reminiscent of some of the same shit that people say nowadays. There's a movie called The Mandela Effect, came out a few years back. It's decent. It's a good watch. I mean, a fun watch, I suppose. It deals with a lot of this kind of stuff, and it goes hard into the conspiracy theory stuff. And a lot of what she said is in that movie. And I mean, I'd heard about all that stuff before then too, but I think that this show, per usual, especially with this one, was very ahead of, like, us watching it now. It doesn't seem like anything special, but back then when she was talking that stuff, people were like, what is wow.
I mean,
hell, now we're
Paul
just
even
like,
says, I was gonna say, Paul even says it's a little metaphysical for him. It's like,
yeah.
What?
Like I think that it was he was I think I like where Serling was going with this. It shows how like his brain, man, was just, his imagination was like ahead of the curve on almost every way. Like I said, I know that somebody had those thoughts or thought something like that at that point, but it was in its infancy. The way she describes this stuff, even though it's a few just like blurbs, it sounds like someone who's always talking about, the conspiracy theorists that we all know that's always talking about this kind of stuff. She's like talking about it like she comes from a place of understanding. Now, it's a bit odd because it talks about how she's pretty unassuming person.
I was just gonna say,
kind of like a what did they say?
She's a very
got a good head on her shoulders.
She's got a head on her shoulders. She's kind of she's not one to be given to fits of fancy.
Yeah, and all of a sudden she is writing a Philip K. Dick novel as she talks to this guy. I mean, it's like, whoa, someone who's not very given to flights of fantasy and stuff. You just gave a lot of flights to fantasy. But hey, whatever, right on. I guess it had to get it out there somehow. But that's what I took notice of there, is it seemed that whole conversation there seemed very ahead of its time. And where it goes from there, I definitely see the inspiration for what it inspired, 50 something years later. And I got some questions, comments, and things to talk about the ending. Well, very extremely ambiguous ending.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this: did you guys, while watching that, go, I think Rod Serling is literally telling the person that he made the bet with here. He's like, she is now the smartest person in the world, or in the room at least.
Yeah.
Ha ha. Where's my cigarettes?
That's a
he's like,
I
I
can
that
see it-
machine. You just pull it in.
There you go. I could see it kind of both ways. Like he wrote her brilliantly in the second half. The first half, and I know that she was dealing with some big crazy shit, but like to have the guy come in and just be like, oh well, you know, just the way he was the way they were kind of, I don't know. Like I kind of am two minds about it. The way it was written in the first bit, I was kind of but the second bit,
because it comes out of nowhere. It really does. It literally comes out of nowhere. That's the crazy part about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of coming out of nowhere, can we talk about Paul?
Yeah, basically.
He just shows up, and this guy is
He's like the guy in
friendly.
Yeah, he's like the guy in The Hitchhiker, man.
Yeah, he is either trying to he either something's up with Paul that we don't know about. I mean, we find that there's not, but we find out in real life though. If I saw the situation going down, either something's up with this guy. He knows something or something's going on, or he is like hardcore just trying to get laid because he like walks in off the street and he just picks this chick out of these people. And he's like, hey, I mean, there's not a lot of people in there.
Yeah,
he just sits down and starts having a whole lot of conversations with her, just like they've known each other for a long time. And I was like, damn, you're like really going hard, dude. Is it backed up or something?
Yeah.
Bless you, by the way.
Thank
Watch
you.
out, Vera.
Well, and just
blow your back
the
out.
way that because at one point the cops come in because they call them to take her away, and it's just like,
yeah,
okay, just gonna toss her in the back of the cop car. No,
like they kidnapped her ass.
Oh my god, they basically did, and it's just like I was expecting Nan Adams to come around the corner and then them to go off on a crazy adventure with Thelma and Louise style.
Yeah. Oh yes, that would have been awesome. She just pulled up. She was like, "Bitch, get in the car! Come on!"
That's
run over some motherfuckers.
That's what I was saying to Trill. I was like, you know what? This needs to be a Thelma and Louise episode where, you know, we have Nan Adams and Vera Miles, and at some point they just jump off the I don't know, into the Twilight Zone of canyons or whatever.
Oh, it was
deeper into purgatory.
When they pulled up and threw her ass in the back there, it happened so quick. Like he's like, "Hey, come out here for a minute," and they walk out, and like the cops just like knew exactly, like they were waiting around the corner, knew exactly what their mission was. It wasn't like if you've ever dealt with police officers too, where they pull up, you know, they get out and they're like, let me get my book and all that. No, these fuckers rolled up. She like, what's going on? They grabbed her and tossed her in like they kidnapped her or something.
Basically.
Like, they just jumped out and grabbed her ass, and she's like, ah, and like throw her. That was the funniest shit ever. I don't know why it's the visual of it. I love it.
It's just it's funny because like you're sitting there and she runs back into the bathroom to see if she can find the doppelganger or whatever. She's like, where's my other half?
She's on a
blah,
bus.
blah, blah.
She left.
Yep.
Yeah. And like you said, like you guys were saying, they call the cops, and you know, if you've ever had an emergency, unless it's like a, you know, a major emergency, like a shooting or something like that, I've never seen the cops come that quickly or an ambulance come that quickly to pick up, you know, somebody that's hurt. I've seen somebody that was in shock, and it took like 25 to 30 minutes for somebody to come to check on this person. So the fact that this cop, either they're really bored or they just were like, oh my God, this doppelganger just really shocked the hell out of her. And it's like, we're going to pick her up and take her to Sing Sing or whatever, you know, to the nut house, the cuckoo's nest. And
I don't think they were cops.
They're probably not. They're probably
I think they were.
They're
just
probably
dressed up
doppelganger
like
cops.
Yeah, they're the ones
They were
chasing
hot
after
cops.
Nan Adams.
Grabbed her. They were strippers or something. They just ran up, grabbed her, threw her in the back of that car, and just took off. Like, and she's like there. She is the episode. She's a predominant. She's the main character in the episode, and then all of a sudden she walks outside, and out of nowhere, because the show does not allude to it, she just walks out, and he's just sitting there like watching it, and he's like, okay, and it happens so quick, and she's just gone. She's just fucking gone, and you're like, what? Okay. And then he walks in like he's upset about it, and I'm like, didn't you call him?
Well, it was
and then he's
traumatic
like,
for him.
right? Yeah,
I
he's
can
like,
tell.
I'm gonna go. And he's like the ticket attendant. He's like, you should go take a nap on that really uncomfortable bench that's sitting there. And he goes down, and he like his bag is missing, and all of a sudden he looks up, and it's like some dude's running out of. He's like running out of the building, and it has like the worst green screen, like a second version of yourself running. And that's when Nan Adams comes up behind in her car. She takes a left at Albuquerque or whatever before she, you know, runs over one of the real Paul character. And then Paul just stops as his doppelganger looks back, and it's like that's what you're talking about, where it's very what was the word you used? Very when you're not sure. What's that?
Oh, ambiguous.
Yeah, it's very ambiguous on what exactly happened to Paul's character. But assuming that he went to the nut house, he went to the cuckoo's nest like she did, because he's like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. Oh man, that like he and his little doppelganger guy who's running ahead of him, and hers kind of did it, but his especially, he looks like gleefully evil.
Oh, it's awesome.
And that really goes back, or not goes back. It reminded me how much Us took from this show, because if you remember the characters in Us, they were like super mean and menacing, but then every now and then they'd be like crazy. That's how this guy look. He's like running, and the other guy's like, "What are you? Oh my god, stop!" And he like looks back. He's like,
yeah,
you know
it's
what
like
it kind of makes me think of, like the characters in Us, they didn't really know how to smile like a human, so they just kind of like they repeat what other people do, but they can't do it like with the emotion behind it because they don't understand the context.
It's like when they walk into that carnival attraction or whatever, and the little girl walks in and she looks in the mirror and she's staring at herself, and all of a sudden the girl goes, it's like that character, you know, the little, but he doesn't strangle his own doppelganger, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's probably good
that we know of.
Yeah,
that's true.
Maybe he catches.
You know what else?
You googly eyed motherfucker.
This had a lot of Carnival of Souls about it as well. Like not quite in the same way, but just that she walks around, you can tell by how she's acting that something isn't right. The same thing happens with the main character in that too. It's just you find out later that she had died and for somehow had traveled halfway across the country and interacted with people and stuff, but her whole like mentality as she goes along is just there's something not right about her, about the situation, whatever it might be. So they did a good job with it though. And Vera Miles is obviously a pro. So
I swear Vera Miles was in more than just this episode, but I looked up, I couldn't find any other credits. Twilight Zone credits.
She plays Lilia Crane in Psycho. She plays I think the sister.
Did that, but yeah, but did she have any other connection to the Twilight Zone besides this one? Because I swear she was
no,
not that I'm aware of.
Think not that I'm aware of it either. I'm looking at her IMDb page. It's just she had a lot of credits, like a lot of TV shows she had premiered like 1 or 2 episodes in. I have to go. Holy shit! Where's Twilight Zone? 1960
to
right?
1965.
Yeah, it was just the 1 episode.
Yeah, I thought she was in more episodes or something, but I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, so Jacob, can you close us out with a closing narration?
Of course I can. Sure. I'm in no way, shape, form, or fashion doing this after the fact because we forgot to do it. Obscure and metaphysical explanation to cover a phenomenon. Reasons dredged out of the shadows to explain away that which cannot be explained. Call it parallel planes, or just insanity. Whatever it is, you'll find it in the Twilight Zone. I like how Trip does that at the end of every closing narration.
Well,
I can't do the more complex ones. I can just do the real simple. Plus, my mouth does funny things. Yeah.
Original one that goes boom. Well, like when it for the copies I have, it always shows like the title card and it says like original air date, and then it goes in the opening and it always goes boom, 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 bling, bling, bling. That's my rendition of it. And then it has that yeah, I can keep going.
This is going at the end of the episode. That is some
nowhere
great
near
my
as
face
iconic
looks
as
funny.
the
Yeah, you see, my face looks funny when I do the do 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 do.
Lots of doo-doo in this episode.
Exactly.
Man, it's been a good 20 years since I've said the word doo-doo. Maybe
Well, you're
30.
missing out, man.
So overall, let me ask you this question: What do you think? What do you think is happening with Paul? What, like you said, when it comes to the ambiguous nature, the ambiguously gay duo nature, or something like that. What do you guys? What do you guys think overall of the episode? What do you think of that ending? What was your overall feeling? Did you have anything to add? All that good stuff.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna throw in there before we get into like all the what could or could not be going on here. I feel like that's going to be quite the discussion. But How about that zoom on the briefcase, man?
Oh
Were
God,
they
that
trying
was
to tell us
terrible.
something? That was like, wow, you were not subtle about that at all. I think you projected that like way out. We know, oh, maybe his briefcase isn't going to be there when it comes back into frame. Because like it was the most unsubtle thing ever. Like he sets his briefcase down and the camera just goes like on it and fixates on it. Like it encompasses the whole screen for like a solid few seconds. It's like, okay.
As grainy as hell.
Yeah, maybe we need to keep our eye on the briefcase.
I will say, like the way that they did the whole effect of like, the briefcase is behind him. He bends over to do something and then it comes back and it's gone. Like that was that was a nice effect.
Well, yeah, I like those kind of effects because it was in one shot. It was all in camera. And well, yeah, I'm sure there was somebody hiding just in the right spot and they like grabbed it and snatched it away, or maybe they had it on a rope. I don't know. I like those kind of things in movies and shows where I don't always necessarily like when a technical aspect takes over the narrative of a show or a movie and like you're thinking more about the technical side of things. But it is neat, like when you see one shots or you see something where they did some technical wizardry in camera. Mm-hmm. That even if it's a simple thing, you're like, well, wow, they pulled that off and it worked really well. And that's something that I took notice of that too, because it never left. I mean, his head's in the way, I think, and he like bends over or something like that. And when he comes back up, it's gone. And I was like, well, I mean, it's a simple thing, but especially for the 60s, the early 60s.
Simple and effective. They didn't overthink it. They just let it be what it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you weren't too wrapped up in thinking about that fucking focus on that thing just a moment ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Very effective shot.
Yep.
Well, that's what I'm sorry, I may have not heard this, but did you talk about the disappearance of the suitcase?
You mean his
like
suitcase, right?
No, her suitcase. Like it's sitting there. I think she goes towards the camera, and when she turns it around, it's disappeared. And we were talking about that. We were talking about that when she was like when we were watching the episode, but I was saying maybe they pulled it from underneath because the underneath the bench is very, very dark and there's not much light, so maybe they pulled it there. But you talked about how that was such a great shot, such a great kind of simple cool effect. That's what I like about this episode is, and I tried to say what I was trying to say last episode, but that's what Citizen Kane and Psycho did, and I think the Twilight Zone did really well. They actually were innovating on shots to find new ways of making something not only more interesting and more unique, but to be more effective. And there's a simple fact that like the way it shoots up, like you guys said, on a pull-in of the suitcase, or the way they probably opened up a wall to get a shot in this particular location. It's that type of thing which it makes the Twilight Zone so unique and so special and so revolutionary for its time, and even for today, is just those camera effects, the lighting techniques, the use of mirrors, everything about that really sets itself apart from a lot of TV shows that were even coming out at the time. So it's like Star Wars, with the whole idea of not wanting to use credits at the beginning of the movie, pissed off a lot of people at Fox, and George Lucas was like, I don't care, we're not doing it. And it became like a revolutionary thing where he not only was able to do what he needed to do, but they allowed him to do it, and that kind of changed everything. That's where I was trying to angle with that last time, and it didn't come off real well. So
that's okay.
I'm with you. Like some of the, not every episode, but we do get those episodes every now and then that have some technical attributes to them that are very ahead of their time. I mean, they're not always like, we look at it and we're like, I know how they did that, but it's still neat. And this is one of them. And I agree with you, like with which ones you mentioned, Citizen Kane and
Psycho.
Psycho, was doing shit that now we see nowadays and we're like, okay, yeah, that's nothing special, but back then it was like, holy shit. Citizen Kane too. Citizen Kane was so far ahead of its time.
It's revolutionary.
Technically, I mean, hot take, the story sucks, but it's boring as all. It's boring as hell. It ain't for me.
No lie. No, I don't like it either. So,
but from a technical stance, that movie, I see why it's revolutionary, because technically it's shot like movies are nowadays, and they didn't shoot movies like that back then.
Well, and you look at kind of in that same vein, you look at the other TV shows that were on at the time. They were basic, 3-camera setup, wide, medium, and close-up shots, and that was all they did. You got the occasional like zoom in on someone's face, but yeah, Twilight Zone took risks. It was more than just a basic show, you know. I mean, for as much as we diss on Dutch angles, there's I mean, they're used to a good effect in most cases, just like every other shot that they do.
I gotta wonder, you see a lot of innovation in film and TV, especially film. We see it's usually because nobody thought it was going to be a thing. You mentioned Star Wars. Everybody thought that was going to be some Flash Gordon bullshit that nobody was going to see. It might be a flash in the pan, not a big deal.
Yeah.
It became Star Wars. We see innovation from movies, and we still do nowadays. And a lot of it comes from movies that are very unassuming, that no one's expecting to be a thing, and then they become a thing. And a lot of times it's because of that innovation they made. I gotta wonder if Twilight Zone, and I don't know enough about the history of it, if when it first came out, it was thought to just be, oh, that little horror show or sci-fi show, just another one, it's run of the mill. And I mean, we're only 20 episodes in, or 21 episodes in now. So it probably still had that, if that was how they looked at it. It might be how he got away with so much originality and doing so many different things, because nobody gave a shit. They were like, whatever, nobody's going to watch this shit anyway. Do whatever it is you want to do.
It'd be like a Friday night at 9 o'clock slot or something.
Yeah. And every episode is so different. Like the if you look at every TV show has multiple directors. That's normal. But these directors are told they need to adhere to a certain, way that the show is made. I mean, you're making a cohesive narrative, or you're making the same show, and you can put your spin on it, but you still got to stay. If you look at the Twilight Zone, one episode is like traditional filmmaking. Another episode is like, they've got like sets like a play would, like that one episode, The Four of Us Are Dying. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the episode, but I mean, some of the things where he's walking down the street and like, it didn't show the buildings. It just shows the signs and all that. It's very artistic, Dutch angles and stuff. Each episode is like, you can totally see the director's personality in it, or at least the DP's personality in it. And, I feel like they wouldn't have gotten away with that had this, because Rod Serling wasn't like a big thing when the show got started. I don't think. I feel like maybe that's how they get away with a lot of this creativity, because at this point, at least, nobody thought anything. And maybe that's why when season 3 or 4 came about, and that's when they extended the episodes out, maybe that's why some of the creativity was lost a bit, because I know one of those seasons, I think it's 4, is seen as like not the greatest.
Yeah.
And maybe that's when the studio started like sticking their nose in it more and being like, oh, no, this is Twilight Zone. You got to do this.
This is kind of what we, it's been a while, we started in August, so things kind of you forget about. But the whole big thing that Rod Serling became so despondent about is he started out, I think, on Studio 70, and he was in essence trying to develop he developed a project. He developed that first pilot episode. And the people that he was eventually, the people that he sold it to, there were people who were like, what are you making? You need to stick to the more traditional stuff. This is never going to, like you said, never going to sell. This is child's bullshit. It's just stuff that's just never going to work. And throughout his entire run, this is what he talked about, and his daughter talked about. They were like, he fought for every single episode, for every single second, for every single thing. That's why when it gets to season 4 and season 5, he was so burnt out with what he was doing that every episode, pretty much after season 4, was not written by him. He was brought in a producer. He did his, his thing at the beginning and end. But that's why it ended in season 5, because he said, fuck this shit. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. That's why he did Night Gallery and stuff like that. And, you see episodes like this and what he's trying to do. He's basically putting it to, it feels like it, like I said, if we ever had like Anne Sterling come on and talk to us about like what exactly he was thinking, maybe she knows something, that'd be awesome. But I don't pressure people to do that stuff. But what it feels like with this episode is they're really trying to get to the nuts and bolts of Rod Serling was told something. He proved them wrong, and he did it in a way that made her character become the smartest person in the room. And on top of that, it's dealing with how do we look at ourselves in the mirror, and how do we see ourselves in a world that, wants us to be one way and we want to be another way. I mean, that's kind of the simplified version, but that's Rod Serling in a nutshell. I read, a lot of stuff about him for the longest time. And yeah, he was not happy when doing this series. He loved the series very much. It was his baby, but he was not happy with how, I don't know who the company was that was working on this with him on this, but I guess it was
CBS.
CBS.
Yeah.
CBS is one of those companies that back in the day they were fucking corrupt.
Well, they were all like
white
that.
men. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's every one of the broadcasters was like that. Like they pushed for what they wanted. They had a status quo, and that's what they stuck to.
Yeah.
That's probably, like I said, I mean, I think that once they started saying, oh, this is a cash cow, people tune into this, it's a big thing, they probably started getting more involved, and that probably just pushed him out even more.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I liked it when you guys kept your noses out of my shit. Now you're in here you're telling me I'm Papa Rod. I'm Hot Rod. You don't tell me what to do. I tell you what the Twilight Zone is. You're taking this shit to the 6th dimension. That's just somewhere we don't want to go.
Well, and even like the sponsors that they dealt with back then, like and it's a random piece of trivia I ran across, but they had to change the script up on Judgment Night because it's a British ship, and they serve tea. Well, the Folgers or whoever it was said, well, but you're pushing tea instead of coffee. And I mean, I'm sure little things like that came back to bite them in the ass later, as the sponsors of the shows.
That's another totally has nothing to do with this. But you said Judgment Night. I finally watched that episode today.
Nice.
So I'm caught up, totally caught up with all of them. I've seen them all. But that was another one in relation to what I said about this one in the beginning. That was another one that when I turned it on, I immediately was like, I remember this episode. I remember what's going on here. But for some reason, I thought, like this one, I didn't relate it to the Twilight Zone. When it came on, I had this feeling, I've seen this before. I know what's going to happen pretty much, but I didn't think it was a Twilight Zone. I thought it was a movie or something else where I'd seen it. But yeah, I remembered that episode very vividly like I did this one. And I watched them both in the same day. Maybe today's just the day I need to watch shit that I watched a long time ago. And I'm having like my mind is very expansive. Could be another dimension is encroaching on my own. And
that's true. Your doppelganger is going to come through.
Yeah, I'm getting his smarts, kind of like that movie, The One with Jet Li, where you like kill your doppelganger, you become smarter and stronger and faster. That's what's happening here somehow. I don't know.
You know what it is? It's Jeff.
Yes.
Definitely Jeff. Jeff is my spirit animal's eye. He gives me power as I sit here. Like you can't see it. It's kind of like the Northern Lights movie where it's like I'm getting his dust. And I'm going real granular here with like with the golden compass.
You're getting his eyelash dandruff.
I'm getting his dark materials. You guys are probably like, what the fuck are you talking about? Somebody out there will get it. Jeff, you my dog's eye.
So overall, I think we love this episode, or at least like this episode. I think it's pretty good. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about on it? Like, do you have any closing thoughts?
I mean, we didn't talk about what
the ambiguity of it.
Yeah, what was going on? I mean, she threw out a bunch of stuff when she became Neil deGrasse Tyson all of a sudden. But what was it? I mean, she throws out some ideas. She says, hey, I'm going to pepper this out there for you. Get your gears turning. It could be, another dimension.
She goes Hunter Thompson on everybody's ass.
Yeah, she throws a few things out there and gets the gears turning. That's how you do that's how you do ambiguity. You throw some stuff out. You give the audience something to chew on, but then you don't give it all to them. You give them just enough to say, oh, it could be like,
spinning top.
10 different things. Yep. And then you leave them with something where they're like, what could it be? Now, it's a dangerous place to go. But I think this episode did a fairly good job with it. Because if they had started trying to explain it, first of all, they could have shot themselves in the foot. Secondly, the ambiguity of it all is what kind of makes it interesting. Because I don't feel as if because I kind of feel like after seeing this and finding out, which I should have noticed until I read it, that Us is inspired by this. I feel like Us was Jordan Peele trying to give us Us was the ending that he had.
Oh yeah,
the whole idea behind ending.
That's a good thought.
He came up with in his head.
I don't know though. The end of Us is so
not the end of Us.
In its own.
Not the end of it, just the whole thing about what's going on in Us.
The overall story.
And they're these people underground. I feel like that was where his brain went when he was a kid or whenever he saw this episode. And then he just wrote his own story based on that. I feel like that was his version. I'm just wondering what you guys' version, what do you think was really going on? Was it some other dimension? Was it something encroaching on our own? Was it aliens? Was it just, googly-eyed special ed kids? Right, you're gonna cut that. What was going on? I mean, what did you think it was?
I'll just say I think it's Rod Serling trying to play on the fact of, you know, how we see ourselves in a place that's not our place. I guess I don't know. I didn't even think about it being super ambiguous, but I guess if you think about it, it is. Maybe it's like we want to see ourselves somehow in some way different than we are, and maybe it's the inner horror nature of us as human beings. Like we have that dark nature inside of us, and it wants to get out and wants to escape, and we do our best to keep it down. You know, it's like in Us, the Jordan Peele movie, it's like these individuals are locked down because if our darkness comes out, it can be fatal to society. And, you know, she gets taken away and her evil self escapes, and who knows where it's going to lead from there. But I know that's probably not the most coherent of logic, but that's kind of maybe where I read at this point.
I always thought it had a little bit to do with nature nurture, but that's that psychologist, you know, side of me, which I went to school for originally and never finished. But the whole nature nurture thing is really interesting to me. It always has been. But like, you know, because she is the spoilers for us, everybody. But if we're going to go down that road, she is the evil side, because we're led to believe, okay, all the people under there, like you said, all the people that are underground are like the bad version or the bad part of us, and the good part is up here.
Misunderstood.
Yeah. But what it really is they're just left there to be like primal. So this is that primal survival, you know, just animal nature of us. So it's like if you took these two people that were, because that's the whole nature nurture thing. If you took two identical things, living entities, and raised one through nature and one through nurture, or you raised one way and with one family and one with another, is it nature? Will nature take over, or will nurture? Can you nurture them to be bad and or nurture them to be good? Or is it in our nature are we preordained to be this thing? You know, if you're bad, you're born bad. No matter if you're with the good family or not, you're going to be bad. Or if you're with the bad family, you're going to be, you know, whatever. So that's the whole nature nurture thing. And I thought showing her being able to, even though she was the bad version, as we find in the end or later on in the movie, she ended up being a decent person after that. And the good version that was taken when she was younger ended up being the bad version. So it's kind of like that movie's leaning into the whole nurture side of things. It's not nature. It's not in our nature to be either one. It's how you're nurtured, how you're raised. And the way that goes back to this movie is, if that was it, if these are all, if there's like a doppelganger clone of each and every one of us that's hiding out somewhere and they're starting to spill out into the streets, you know, what are these? What are these like googly-eyed clones running around? Are they just like imperfect copies of us? Could it be, instead of all that, could these be like they're seeing visions of, because nobody else seems to have seen, well, they do, they haven't. I find it hard to believe in that little room right there. Well, the guy says confirmed that I've seen you come up here multiple times, so we led to believe that he can see this other version of her. I find it hard to believe that when she walks in the fucking bathroom and she's just still sitting there or she's sitting at the bench, how he doesn't notice that in this little room. Like, hey, you just went in the bathroom. Why are you still there? And then he hears her freaking out in the bathroom, or that guy, he's running after him. So all that, you know, is it possibly this is a future version of themselves doing something? They're seeing like a reverse echo of something that's going on. Is it like we said, just another, you know, slightly altered version of our world, another dimension or pocket in space, and they're crossing over? I don't know, man. I just like those kind of episodes or those kind of stories that get you to thinking. Like, it doesn't give you enough to concretely be able to say it's this, but it gives you enough to make you really start thinking about all the different things it could be. But it also gives you an end to that story. But it's almost like it's into the story and the narrative that they were telling here, because they didn't leave the narrative open. The narrative is told, the narrative is completed. But what it does is, by telling that narrative, by closing that narrative, it opens up this whole other one. And that's good ambiguity, because it opens up this whole other one. It just ends. So now some people will be like, oh, it didn't have an ending. It did. It ended the narrative. We found out what happened with her, what was going on with her, more or less. But in finding that out, it opened up something whole and bigger.
Well, I was going to say,
go.
No, go, Trev, please, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I kind of when you kind of figure out what's going on, my first thought was pod people, whether you're talking the 1956 or the 78 or whichever version, except for the 2008. Totally. But I think it's that that understanding of a different side of you that you try to keep hidden, that that we don't allow out. The other thing, when you got talking about how she didn't see herself going up to the ticket counter at first, maybe there's that thing about being blind to parts of ourselves, kind of, and I don't know how to expand upon that beyond that, just to say, but once you become aware of it, then all of a sudden it's everywhere, you're able to see it, or maybe only in certain ways when you're in that right frame of mind to allow yourself to see it.
We have blinders on going through life, and there's things all around us every day. And sometimes when we become aware of something, that's when we start to see it. Like, I liken it, this is going to sound stupid as hell, but when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager, I remember when it came to a Pontiac Grand Am, not a great car, but I was aware of them, but they weren't on the forefront of my mind. I didn't really think much about them. My friend's mom got one, and for some reason it became a bit more aware in my mind. All of a sudden I saw fucking Grand Ams everywhere, fucking Pontiac Grand Ams. Yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ, how many of these things? Is this the most popular car ever made? They're everywhere. And I had to think about it at some point. And I was like, they've always been there. I just didn't notice them.
Yeah,
it's like the Corolla. Like, I bought a Corolla, and all of a sudden I started noticing Corollas everywhere. I'm like, are they always been here?
Yeah, is this new? I thought this was a new thing when I got it. I thought I got a rare car. Everywhere, and I got a Corolla.
Yeah.
Well, no, what I was gonna say was, this might sound like a joke, but I don't actually mean it as a joke. There's an episode of the Halloween Treehouse of Horrors in The Simpsons where it's the one with Bart, and he finds out that he had a twin brother, that they were conjoined twins, and one was the evil twin, and they cut the evil twins in half and stuff like that, or the twins, and one was stuck up in the basement of the Simpsons house, fed fish heads and stuff like that. It's a really great episode, a really good
Jesus Christ.
But it was chained to the wall because he was the evil incarnation, and Bart, of course, was raised blah blah blah. Well, you come to find out that Bart was actually the evil one, and Hugo, which is Bart's twin brother, was actually the good one. So instead, they lock Bart up into the attic and feed him fish heads, and they bring Hugo down and raise him as a kid. But the whole, it comes back to the whole point of what you're talking about, Jacob, where how you're raised, how you are put into that place is going to affect your overall outcome. So, if I was raised in, for instance, a very terrible household, I'm going to be probably a terrible person. If I was raised in a good household, most likely you might be a better off person, unless, some circumstances. But it's the same type of thing. But I didn't mean that to be like the joke thing, but I was just saying it's the same type of thing that happens, and they may have stole that from Twilight Zone.
I'm describing that too. I haven't seen that episode, or not that I remember.
Oh, it's great. It's a really good segment. Yeah,
it sounds like maybe Jordan Peele took some from that too. It's inspired by The Simpsons. That doesn't sound as good as Twilight Zone though, so I get it.
No, you could even claim some basket case in there too, if you wanted to.
There you go.
Yeah, with the conjoined thing.
Mm-hmm.
I liked, and if you ask me, hey, what do you think happened? I have no clue, because it left it so open. But this is one of those, if this episode came out more or less and it's, the way it's made nowadays, this would be one of those episodes of whatever show it was that was feverishly debated for a long time after online. You'd have people in chat room. Well, they don't do chat rooms anymore, but on comment sections talking about it's this and it's that. It's like, no, actually, you don't know. It's because so and so did this and that. It's and pretty much doing what we're doing here. There people be doing that all over the internet. Back then, they had newspapers. They didn't do that. But
they wrote in the opinion sections, I watched Twilight Zone last night and I'm confused as to what this means.
But I
had a leak in their attic.
I like this one. I did like that aspect of it. Admittedly, I think the episode when we talked, I think Alex actually brought it up last week. I think the episode, even though I did like it, I think much like another episode I liked, Third from the Sun, the episode's a little top heavy, or bottom heavy rather. Like, if you take just and sometimes I find it difficult doing this until we get on here and start recording, because the format that Nick uses, he'll like talk about the first half and then say, what did you think about it up to this point? And that's when sometimes I'll realize, up to this point, honestly, it was just kind of happening. It was just like, okay, whatever. And then the second part comes along and you get or vice versa. So I split it like that in my mind. But I do think this one had the second half was much, better paced. The first half was just kind of, I'm on board with the mystery. I'm cool with it, but it is kind of nothing really happening. Got a crazy lady in a bus station doing kind of the same shtick over and over. Oh, I've already been up here. She goes to the ticket guy. She's like, oh, what? I haven't been here. What are you talking about? Oh, my bag's gone. It's back. Okay, let me go to the bathroom. What, lady? I haven't been here. What are you talking about? Oh, my bag's. Holy shit, there I am. And then she goes out back to the ticket guy. And then,
Then she gets offered like a cold cloth from a lady that could have been using it to clean the toilets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, probably was. She's like, fucking bitch, you won't leave me alone. Here you go. Have a nice towel.
So yeah, that was a pretty good discussion, actually. That's if you have any more things to talk about, that's a good way to say, here's about 45 minutes of talking, and we'll give you our overall opinion. That's also why I brought Jacob on, because he can make this podcast last longer than it will ever last.
I got more. We can keep going.
Jake, you're the Viagra of this podcast.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
If we last more than 4 hours, we need to go see a doctor. But that's, even if we go see the doctor, we're still going to have a grand old time.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you last more than 4 hours, you can go see a doctor, but me, I'm having a good time.
So anyways, one quick thing before we get into the Twilight Zone list. Somebody asked me like a week or so ago, why we don't rank it by letter, like the actual episode. I'm like, I don't like giving scores or anything. I know, Jacob, you have your really cool explosions and things you do with it, which is kind of awesome. I have to admit, that's a great way to score your episodes.
I like explosions.
Triv doesn't really mess with that kind of stuff either, so that's
How
why
do
we
you rank movies like killer condoms and
you rank it as awesome tacular. I don't know.
Oddly enough, Killer Condom is based on a comic book, so it's on my list of comic book movie reviews. So I will be ranking.
Nice.
Is it really?
Nice.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a
Yeah.
French
No
comic
shit.
book.
Yeah.
So I will be rating that movie at some point in time. So
that's
find
awesome.
out how I do it then. I still agree. I think because my internet's so shit, like the Twitter DMs are kind of like sketchy, but if I read correctly, you guys or somebody said that we should have a handshake, and someone suggested.
Yep.
I just want everybody to know that I'm down with that. I'm cool.
Awesome. I like it.
I'll do a whole green screen of it. I have agreed.
See, I can't.
It'll do like the dancing. It'll do like the dancing Jacobs. Like in the background.
I think I may know what the first thing I'm gonna do is. Ooh, could that be my intro? Can we somehow liken that to Twilight Zone?
If you can figure out a way to do it, go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put something together.
You know what? If you have a movie, if you like one of the Twilight Zone episodes that takes place in the desert, and you have like the full body green screen, I could put you in wherever.
Ooh, I could.
Oh, you know what you could do? You could have the Lonely, and the thing that he opens the box with is just
when you do the pelvic thrust, it goes boom. And inside of it is the singing bush from Three Amigos. She'll be coming around the mountain at 1,000 miles an hour. Yes.
Okay, so anyway, yeah.
These are the moments when they're like, why the hell did we ask this guy to come?
No, stop.
I love it.
Dork.
I love it. So with that said, we got to clap. We got to clap for Jacob. He's finally seen all 21 episodes so far of the Twilight Zone, which he's now one of us, Gooba Gobble type of thing. So.
We accept you. We accept you.
Gooba Gobble, Gooba Gobble. So, okay. So the question always remains, is this episode better than Escape Clause, which is literally still in the middle of the pack?
It is. It's weird.
It's right in the middle.
Yeah.
Smack down.
I think so.
I'd say.
I'm sorry. I jumped ahead of Triv.
No, it's all right.
I think so.
I think so as well.
Okay. So from there,
Okay.
is this episode better than The Hitchhiker, which has a similar kind of vibe to it a little bit? Except
You're just calling that because Nan Adams, and we want to have them go off on a Thelma and Louise.
Thelma and Louise. I'm telling you, we're gonna do a Twilight Zone episode, which is just Thelma and Louise, and they jump off a cliff, and somehow they land in like Vietnam or the Philippines or wherever they're at, and then they land in. 4 of us are dying and stuff like that. I mean, hey,
roll up. Shouldn't be like come with
roll
me.
out.
Come with me if you want to live.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so where would you guys put this if it's above a escape clause? Would you I'm gonna be fairly honest, I would put it under the hitchhiker, between escape clause and hitchhiker, but if you guys want it higher, tell me what you guys think.
I don't think it's a good episode, but I think, like we talked about before, it is bottom heavy. It's got a thick bottom.
It's got wide hips and a thick bottom, and
it's got some apple bottom jeans, boots with the fur,
thick and meaty.
So thick.
No, I think around hitchhiker, what you need is good placement by my estimation.
But does it have a better car sequence than what you need?
No.
I
don't know. Throwing her ass in the back of that police car was pretty funny.
But that's not being hit by. I mean, the being hit by a car thing, like that's classic. Like, you can't top that.
True that. Nan Adams got that shit going on, just coming and running over. Hit that fool so hard he flew out of his fucking shoes. Me, I need to. I can't talk. I need to say something real quick now that I've seen all the episodes and I have a bit of a different take on.
No, the fever is not number 1, sir. I'm sorry.
It's number 5.
Number 5.
No. I need to talk about number 5. Funny you say that. Perchance the Dream being number 5 and above the Hitchhiker. I got issue with. I have issue with that. I didn't love Perchance the Dream.
Wow.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. But I didn't love it either. It was just kind of like, okay. I mean, it didn't do it for me. I'm just saying. I mean, I had some comments on it, but it didn't do it for me. But hey, you know what? I wasn't here for that.
He did jump out what looks like 20 stories. So I mean,
at least he's got that. He did it without a slot machine behind him.
Yeah.
So me myself, I look at the Hitchhiker and I'm like, is this above Hitchhiker? Oof, Nan Adams, she's kind of like, a staple of the show now. I would probably be willing to put this above Hitchhiker, honestly. Just barely. It's on that same level. But then I see Perchance to Dream and I'm like, I definitely would put it above Perchance to Dream. So it's like, since Perchance to Dream is above Hitchhiker, I feel as if I would put this above Perchance to Dream. That puts it in the top 4, well, top 5 for me. But once again, it's up to you guys. If I get outvoted, I mean, like we've said a bunch of times, it's still, I think we're all in the same area within a few. I'm waiting for the one where we're like 30 off from somewhere. Somebody's like, it's the number 4, and I'm like, it's number 56. Fuck you, it's terrible.
That may happen next week. I don't know.
Unshot first. But I mean that's me. But hey, what do you guys say? What do you think?
I mean, okay, so here's where I'm sitting.
Right.
This movie, this particular episode is kind of the epitome of all of the mirror talk that we've talked about. Like, it's like the Infinity War, or the Infinity War.
It's the culmination
of 21 episodes or 20 some odd episodes
of mirrors.
I mean, given the kind of thing that it talks about, I could see it going, I don't know. I don't see it going above Perchance, but I could see it in that, between Hitchhiker and Perchance, personally.
Here's where I stand. I think the Hitchhiker is more evened out as an episode. I think it does more than what this episode does, and I think it's better than What You Need, because What You Need is one of those episodes where it has a banger of an ending. It has a good episode, but that ending just kind of rules and it basically jump started our whole Nan Adams joke that we run through each episode. So I mean, I would put it under Hitchhiker, but I know you want to put it above Perchance. I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't like Perchance to Dream, but like I said, that's what makes this a very interesting debate when we get farther and farther along. This is why I joke, but I kind of wish you had been there from the beginning, because you'd be like, "Fuck you guys, we're not putting Perchance to Dream at number 5 or number 1 or 2 or whatever it was at the time. We're gonna stick it down near the fever."
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't hate the episode. I just. I don't know. I mean, I just didn't like it that much. I mean, quite honestly, the only, when it comes to Perchance to Dream, didn't hate it, but when I think about it, the only thing that comes to mind is again, didn't hate it. It just didn't do it for me.
Well, actually, I have a interesting question for you, Triv. If this episode, we've come a long way since our beginnings of the Twilight Zone Fifth Dimension podcast. Do you think we would think differently now about Perchance to Dream than we did back then? Like, the way Jacob talks, like I always find that interesting to talk about. What we think about One for the Angels or Perchance to Dream as being top 10 episodes at this point. Like, it's always interesting to think about. I don't know how you feel about that or not.
I mean,
like, it's weird because the more and more you go along, the better episodes you see. It just kind of changes your
100%. And you see them out of order and stuff, and it's like that, as a standalone thing. I mean, even like we talked about this coming into this, like I didn't really like, it was a good episode, but until we get in here and discuss any of these episodes, and we've talked about it more than once, your attitude and looking at it critically does change the nature of what you see in the episode.
I think my issue with Perchance to Dream, not issue, but when I look at it, it's like the basic idea, the idea of what they were working with, I think is neat. I like that idea. I like how in the end, it was all going on in his head. He died because he died in his dream. So he did die in real life. He was asleep. I like all that. I thought that was pretty neat. That's cool. But all the dream shit, which I understood where they were going with it the whole time. I mean, it's not like it was lost on me. It's just the dream stuff got kind of just like, okay, moving on. No, it just nothing that really spoke to me was happening that much. I mean, they just spent the entire episode hammering home the fact that he's scared shitless. He's got a bad heart. And he keeps seeing this woman who's coming after him in his dreams. But the stuff where she was coming after him in his dreams just wasn't that interesting to me. The overall idea behind the episode, the overarching story that was going on, that was interesting. But everything that was happening wasn't. So I could sit here and talk about the idea of this and be like, hey, yeah, it had a neat story, a neat idea. But when I talk about, hey, watch it again, no, I don't want to watch the cat lady that looked like, with the eyes.
I remember talking about how funny that was.
Yeah, they're on a roller coaster and all. It's just, it was kind of boring, those parts. Once again, I liked where they were going. I liked what they were trying to do. I just didn't like how they executed it. It just didn't come across as very, I was just like, okay. It was one of those things, it had a neat, it's like the one episode I was talking about last week, the Third from the Sun, had a great ending. And the ending put a lot into perspective, and the ending is part of it. So you can't take that away. But man, I feel like you can have a great ending and still have something compelling that leads up to that great ending.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me,
understood 100%. And I think that, time as it goes on, even if you've seen all these episodes over time, that perspective that you get from people talking about it, or even just, your own circumstances when you see it, when you go back and watch them again, does affect where you put stuff. And I remember the conversation about Perchance to Dream. I think we saw it as dark.
I think because it took me so off guard.
Yeah. And it was dark for, you've got like, one time enough at last where he's threatening, that was kind of a thing that you saw in multiple places, whether you're talking Looney Tunes, whether you're talking wherever. But something like Perchance, where it was the ending that I think probably got us on that, was the fact that dude jumped out a window. There was clear and present suicide. They didn't,
well, sure.
he didn't, so I think that did affect kind of the way we kind of voted on that one.
And I get that, and that's cool.
No, I'm just saying that I think that's probably where our minds were with it.
And that's fine. But when I look at each of these episodes, is because I'm like, where would I put it just right now? If we were doing that episode instead, which it kind of seems like we are right now. But where would I put it? I'm looking at them, and the way I look at everything I rate and review, including on here, is we'll sit here and we'll dissect it, and we'll talk about the things we really like, and things we don't. And as we do that, I have this notion of the things I like, or if I liked or didn't like an episode, and the things I liked. And as we talk about it, it opens up more things, and then I start to maybe view the overall episode a bit different. But even regardless of all that, whether after talking about it with you guys or not, it expands on whether I liked it more or makes me say, well, maybe it wasn't that great. Whichever it is, at the end of the day, for anything that I'm rating, especially ranking like we're doing here, I look at it, I do it very primal and easy. Which one would I rather watch? And I just go down, I look at that one, I say, okay, would I rather watch that more than What You Need? No. Elegy? No. third from the sun. No. And I keep going. And then when I get down to, this is a lot lower than you guys. I didn't hate the episode. That's the thing though, but it's going to sound like it. Mr. Denton on Doomsday, I'd watch this over that. So for me, yeah, it goes all the way down to like that 14, 15 area. Not because it was bad, just because I didn't think it was executed as well as I would have liked. But that's me. I'm not offended that it's up in number 5. But whatever, because it did. Yeah. I give it that. It did have a really interesting, especially for the time, ending. The ending and the way it played out and the whole idea behind it was really interesting and really I liked that, and I like that execution in the end. Everything else.
So I think that's some good points actually. I get what you're going at. Like I said, Alex said last week, her list would be totally different than what our list is. It just kind of in the end kind of culminates down to where do we think is a good spot for an episode of Twilight Zone? Does it match this? Does it match that? Is it slightly better than, minuscule better than the other episode? And like I said, if it were me, and I'm sure Triv, I would put this, to me personally, I would put this below Hitchhiker, put it above What You Need. But this is where I look at it. Would you put it above or below What You Need? I guess is where I'm aiming at. But if you have a different spot, like I said, you were saying about Perchance to Dream. So
that's the thing is I would probably put this below Hitchhiker, like you said. As I would probably put, Hitchhiker, this, and then What You Need.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, because
Perchance to Dream is there. That's just getting me. I look at that one and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good. Wait, what's that? No, I liked it a lot better than that. But I liked all those episodes right there better than that one. So take Perchance to Dream out of the equation, and as it stands right here, because I'm just gonna have to look past that one, I would probably put it as our new number 7.
7, yeah. Which I think is a pretty good. I mean, it's a good spot. It's still top 10 at this point. I mean, it's not like we're saying these top 10 are like awful after it gets, past Mirror Image or something like that, except for 2 episodes. But isn't it kind of funny that 16 millimeter Shrine, it really isn't that bad of an episode anymore?
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's really only 2 episodes out of all of the episodes we've watched that I was just like, this is bad. And guess which 2 that is, because we all agreed on that. Even 16 millimeter Shrine, well, I was like, this isn't great, but it's watchable. And them 2, though, the 4 of us are dying in the fever. Yeah. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Shit.
The 4 of us are dying, or it's kind of like the Citizen Kane. It's like the technical applications are pretty cool, but the actual story is kind of like,
yeah. And that's probably what they got away with back then, because people are like, oh, look at this. It just looks so this and that and the other. What's going on? No idea, but it looks great. The Fever just didn't have anything going for it. It didn't even look good. It looked bad for 1960.
Yeah.
Exactly. It had interesting trivia, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, well, back then they didn't know all that shit.
All right, so with that said, to kind of end the segment, so new number 7, Mirror Image, pretty good spot. Number 1, Walking Distance. Number 21, The Fever still. So
feels the like next that's gonna hold that spot for a while.
Well, The Fever, yeah, at least I'm guessing till at least the case, the Great Mighty Casey or whatever. So we'll see. We'll see.
Saying that, but we don't know for sure until we get there. Because
that's true.
We might pull out some conversation that changes your whole mind, and you're like, "Oh my god, I love this episode so much, I want to recreate it."
It's better than Perchance to Dream. Okay, let's end this episode so we can all get the hell out of here. Okay, so after all that's said and done, the next episode, considered one of the top 10 episodes of all time. One of my favorite, probably my favorite episode of all time. The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street.
I'm going to hate it.
Is going to burn in hell. No,
I'm going to sit here and be kind of in the middle about it.
Yeah, she's going to have to throw the trib whip on everyone. Quiet down.
That sounds like fun.
The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street is an episode that I find extremely prescient in today's society. It's an episode that is very personal to Rod Serling, and it's an episode I can't wait. I've been waiting to talk about this episode for quite a while, and it's next week. So we'll see you then on this episode. So it's a threat. It's a promise.
Yes.
So anyways, that'll do it. That'll be our take on season 1, episode 21 of the Twilight Zone, which is Mirror Image. I hope you guys got some good, fun content out of this episode. But Triv, before you actually fall asleep from the amounts of drugs you've been apparently taking, the Tylenols and the cough syrups and whatever else you've been trying to keep yourself awake, where can they find your awesome trivial content?
Well, besides the fact I've been on pure gasoline, no, kidding.
Yes, that too. They hate these pants.
You can find my Space Pants self over here on YouTube at Trivial Theater. I did Space Truckers here last week, and well, by this point 2 weeks ago. It was a lot of fun, and you'll always find a lot of weird, crazy ass episodes, so please stop by and say hi. I'm also on Twitter at trivia_check.
Awesome. And Jacob, you get a gold star for your internet surviving the 4 hours of recording that we've been doing so far. So congratulations.
Yay.
And where can they find your content that actually does work when you upload?
Once I get it uploaded. My last review took me half a day to upload because it kept on going out. But anyway, you can check me out on Jacob Anders Reviews at YouTube. Yeah, that's the place. That's where I release stuff. That's what I do. Got lots of movie reviews and explosions and methed out looking guy and just fucking big ass titties too. Just all kinds of stuff. Come see it. Subscribe, view, and like, and
Share
notifications. All that. Yeah, share it too. I guess that's a thing. That does something too. Do all the shit. All those buttons under the video. Just click them all.
You're gonna want to flick his bell.
Yeah, flick
Yes.
my bell.
Yeah,
flick my. Just flick it all. Just flick it. Punch it. Click it. Poke it. Just do all of it. Do all the things. Do all the things. But you can also find me on Twitter at Red Neville 2. And,
Yes.
I'm usually talking about YouTube when I'm on there. So
Yes.
there's that. But if I may comment on your stuff, I'm much better about commenting on things on Twitter than actually leaving tweets or whatever they are myself. So anywho, check out the channel. And
How about you?
subscribe. I'm closing in on that 100,000 subscribers that I've been working on. Just about 98,000 to go. So let me get
All
there,
it took
guys.
was Ryan's Babe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This dude spent 6 years on Ryan's Babe, editing, recording,
Did.
uploading. He is now 6 years.
Re-uploading.
Yeah,
Yes.
6 years, 2 months, 4 days, and 80 hours.
Exactly. So definitely check out that. Definitely check out Triv's content. They're all great stuff. Triv says I am at Movie Emporium. I Twitter and Movie Emporium. All my stuff, everything you can imagine. I do the basics, whatever. I might say hi to you. I might block you. I might find some pudding shoulders. I don't know. It's one of those things. So anyways, that'll do it for the Fifth Dimension. Like I said, we are on podcast feeds of all kinds. So rate us, subscribe, find us on YouTube on my channel, hit that like button if some point I put a YouTube page or whatever for the actual channel. Anyways, that'll do it. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fifth Dimension Twilight Zone podcast. And for Jacob, Triv, and myself, peace out.
Adios.
Arrivederci. They got fucking
Well,
googly eyes. They're like,
Yeah, exactly.
Nick's gonna send me a freeze frame of that sometime this week.
I'm sure
It says
so.
with some caption on there on
And
Twitter.
you're like, what is that?
Every week, I make some dumbass face and I get a picture of it.